We're going to backtrack here in a second, but we're going to go to the second part. Okay, so the second part, as soon as your pressure lands toe, I want this out of the way real early. Exceedingly early. There we go. That's what we want. Which you can actually do that now. You couldn't do that in the past. Keep going. See the height on the ball is a little better?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll get into that. Remind me on that one. Okay, so here's kind of the structural early stuff. So your structural early stuff in your swing, you do have a little bit too much anterior at setup of your pelvis. It's a little too much this way. What happens if it gets too much this way or too much this way? They're both bad. You want neutral, because that affects what your core does. So if your core is here, okay, it kind of predestines too much left bend in your pelvis too fast, okay? And if you think of the depth of how much rib cage rotation you're trying to achieve, which yours is a little bit less right now, and you're trying to get more, if your pelvis is somewhat neutral, okay, which means you create core engagement, your TVA is engaged, as soon as you start to move that pressure right, kind of right up a hair, and this throws back, it's going to now create more load through this system, which in turn is going to throw this further back for you, okay, which is inherently one of the issues that you have, which you already know. So if it's too much here in anterior and you go back, you go into a left bend too fast, okay, which you know. And the more that happens and the earlier that happens, the less rib cage rotation you get, which in turn can also left bend you too fast. So we don't want to do that, okay? So we cover those bases. Now, the big thing right now, your right arm, your wrist angles, everything looks fine. They're good. So as you start to get this momentum to throw this back more, it's going to pull this hip back into extension a little bit longer. And in turn, in doing that, that's going to actually recenter your pelvis and your weight more forward earlier, because it's too far back for too long. Now the argument could be that if your center of mass is back longer, you have more potential for speed. But the problem is you're not segmentally moving enough. So you're actually kind of cutting off your segments and keeping your pressure right, opposed to winding your system up to land it further left. Fair enough? So it's inherently shortened your swing up. So therefore your speed becomes a problem. Now, on the tail end of this thing is what you're going to do through your transition. So because you didn't wind your system up enough, it's pretty hard for you to get your lower center to be forward and unwinding fast enough to create separation between the two. So if everything's just kind of short, everything wants to go together, right? It's pretty tough to go short and then fire this out of the way. Okay, so that's kind of your deal. So let's go through it. Cool. So let's start mapping in a little bit of posterior feeling tilt in the pelvis without overdoing it. So your pelvis will feel a little bit more here, like tailbone under, just a hair. A little bit more there, just there. Perfect. Awesome. And then let's move your baseline left about 5 degrees with your feet. There you go. Keep doing it. Well, that's pure. Very good. Very good. All right, let's go on this side. So the first thing, this is before I started the video. So we already kind of looked at this. What this will feel like to you, because you're not trying to go like this, right? Down, okay? You're trying to almost go here and almost feel like it becomes a reverse pivot. So everything kind of winds up a ton and gets this way as much as you can. That'll help this feel like it's going over here, okay?
It's more level too.
Yeah, a little bit more level. Bingo. What's interesting, you need actually more wind up than that feeling.
More wind through here.
Yeah. Because if you don't, you're going to recruit it through your wrists and your arms.
Yeah.
There we go. Look at that. That was nice. Really good. Okay, now we'll just clean some stuff up. So that start line was straight overdraw. Okay, so take your address. Okay, so then just move handle forward, handle up. There you go. Now do everything this way. So the intention here, so everything became zeroed out inherently. Ball started straight, drew away from the target. So, these are all biasly drawing a little bit, maybe 5 yards, but they're not going back to the target. So all you have to do is you have three options. You have club face, okay? You can move the club face, you can raise the handle, and you can move the handle forward. Like those are inherently three. And obviously you can move ball position too if it's too far back, too far forward. Bingo. See how it started a little right at the target? There you go. All right, keep going. Amen. Very good.
It's a flight.
Little overdraw. Not as good on the depth on the backswing.
Not as much wind.
Yeah, we're gonna film this after this. So this is kind of in closing, if I was to wrap this together. So one of the things that's interesting about your aim, okay, your aim gets right, and in theory, it's different for everybody, but generally people aim based on their angle of attack, inherently, and or their path, which is an accumulation of their swing direction and their down. But I think with you, because this gets cut off and this inherently works a little this way, you start moving your baseline this way, and then you start to shut the face by lowering the handle down. So you get the handle low, you start aiming right, so that when you come down, this is kind of working this way.
Right.
The problem is and we already know this with your driver, you hit about a degree down on your driver, sometimes two, at about 100 and, what are you, 110, 109, something like that. So, that's somewhat acceptable. It's not ideal. It's fine. It's nothing that I'd write home about, but something I'd be somewhat worried about. If you know that here that happens on the course, it gets probably more. So I would definitely hedge the other way. The only time I'd aim right with a driver is if I'm hitting up and out on it. That's generally it. When I start getting a little wipey on it, I don't want to do that, because then this gets lower, lower, lower. Once you go from a driver and you jump into a 3-iron, you're kind of screwed. So you want to kind of keep it congruent throughout the bag as much as you can. So let's do it with you raising the handle like 1.5 inches at setup. Do everything the same. Camera position, Chip, a little bit. So handle a little high. There you go. Cool. Very cool. That also will help this. If you notice my right arm, the higher this gets, the more I get this way.
Right.
Which will give you more depth over here. A couple more. You know what's funny? Every time you're here, I grab a club out of your bag and hold on to it. That Mizuno curse. Go ahead. That was pure. Glad I got that one. Yeah. So Vince had actually good question here. Before we look at this. So if you look at some players, okay, they might start down here. I'm not saying that like Fuzzy Zeller or anything like that, but bringing us back here. But when you shift your pressure here to the right, the handle, look what my handle's doing.
Yeah.
It's actually rising a little bit, so it's not static and it's not going like this. It's actually rising because of that pressure. So you can see that my rock is causing this to go up.
Yeah.
So you'll see a lot of players, DJ does this, half the tour does that to some degree.
Right.
But if you negate that movement, then you have to start physically setting angles in your wrist, which is not ideal.
Right.
It's all right. While you're doing that, I'm gonna look at that last one. Okay. Check this one out, brother. Okay, so this one here, so that handle's kind of in the belt line.
Yeah.
Right arm's a little softer at setup. Pressure shifted. Hit the hands, right? And then from here, because the rib cage, two things, because there's obviously momentum involved to the situation, you're actually going to wind now your system up through your core, just like if you were throwing a kettlebell around doing something else athletic.
Right.
Which takes the tension out of the arms. Now you actually see your right hip pull back. Now you still have very good center of mass capabilities here, and the right arm is not behind you, right? And then this keeps winding up. Now you have better hip depth. Now you are a little longer. If I was to, like, I don't care too much about that, but that is a little bit of load in your wrist. So one of the things you need to map is that as you're doing this, your arms feel somewhat unloaded.
Yeah.
Because if you overload it early, you're going to have to reconcile that.
Yeah.
But segmentally, you landed left really good. Left ball of the foot, lower body's unwinding. And let's just say you get all this taken care of. Hips are a little more open at 6. Club comes down pretty good. Little straight right arm at impact, just a little bit too much, but pretty good through the ball. So it's not flipping around. So it's improved. Okay, now let's talk about the transition piece for a minute. Let's go set up. Okay, so it's funny because, you know, if I could, in hindsight's 2020. So like if I could do everything over again from yesterday, right on, like what would I do with certain players or what would I change? And that's always going to be a conflict of every golf teacher or every teacher per se, because there's always forks in the road, right? So the good news is, like, you know what impact looks like from a pitcher standpoint. How we get there is always per somebody's decision, right? You have different strategies to do different things. So segmentally, like if I did this, so let me see your golf club for a minute. Okay. And I want you to cross your right hand under your left arm and set up to the ball. So just kind of go like this. Okay. Under like that, correct. Okay. And soften your right arm a ton. Okay. And then kind of set it into external, so it's this way. There you go. Perfect. See how your right arm's into your side? Yeah. Now go to impact and leave your left arm above your chest. Now see that right there? That, you know, and then kind of let your, no pressure underneath your right foot for that matter. There you go. Kind of look like this, a little more with your knees. Boom. Okay. So you look like DJ right there. Okay. With a better, maybe he's a little more open, but you're basically open and side bent right there, yeah, which is where you should be. Your right arm isn't straight. So the question is, like, how do we get there? So do that same thing. This is what you're going to do at home in the garage. Okay, so just wind your system to the top. Like, go ahead and go to the top, that full wind up. Perfect. Now, what I want you to do is leave that tension of your left arm above your left pec and keep the external feeling of your right arm. Land left and rotate your knees and hips. Boom. Can you do that again for me? Good. Pretty simple, right?
Yeah.
Now, the problem that screws you is you played golf. So you have like a sense of where the face is.
Yeah.
Okay, now if I film that, you'll be kind of shocked, but it actually looks like Tommy Fleetwood coming down. Even though Tommy Fleetwood goes to the top and tries to straighten his arms down, he won't do it because he has to hit a golf ball.
Yeah.
You're just on the other side of that, okay? So he doesn't go to the top and go like this,
Right,
or he wouldn't be Tommy Fleetwood. Okay, so go ahead and do that again. Perfect. Let's do that a little earlier, actually. So immediately rotate the knees and then the hip. Boom, come take a look. Okay. So this is one of your prior ones at P5. This is your new one at P5. Okay.
Wow.
Now, yeah, so before, knees closed, arm in, shaft's okay. Now, lead arms in, right elbows under, knees are square. So you actually have more of like a short and stretch cycle through your core. And then here at P6, you see your arms are pretty straight.
Yeah.
Right? You look here, as you open, this is your P6, your hips are really open, your right arm's more in front of your right hip, and your left arm is down. Mm-hmm. This is your impact. See how you actually went down?
Yeah.
Okay, so that looks completely different.
Yeah.
So, completely different. Okay, so that's your homework. And what I would do is learn to move like that first. Don't worry about the ball.
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't really matter. Let's just keep on that as a feel.
I could do that with
Yes, you could.
rope.
Or do it with a rope. Feel that? Now, look, if I go to the top, okay, and I do this left-handed, okay, go to the top here. See, that's still above my chest. This is soft. Going through. It's not. Boom. Flip that around. Over here, this is staying up. This is rotating. Boom. This is not It's different. Bam, exactly. Now this is all under the context that you landed left toe and then segmentally moved it up the spiral of your system.
Spiral of going, land.
Exactly. All right, let's do it with no ball first. Ready? Cool. All right, good luck. So look, we got you to hit the ball okay and fine, but this is like long term. Remember, this is under the context that you do the backswing correct.
Yeah.
That's all it is, okay? If you don't do that, this becomes pretty hard.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this again.
No ball.
One more time, yep. Cool, all right, let's do it. Awesome. Functional. I was going to make a crude joke saying this is a great way to go from a 1 to a 5. Okay, let's take a look. All right. So that system can wind up more, but better.
And then too much loading in the.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. But knees and hips are earlier. Rotation's better. Right arm is actually less straight at impact. Yeah. Your hips are more open. So the face gets much better through the ball.
Yeah.
And that's one of the one interesting things here that so everybody's chasing. So like most of my Instagram guys, I guess you could say, you see this as a situation where the pelvis is open, the hands go left.
Yeah.
That's all represented because of what happens up at P4, right? Everybody gets wrapped up on this, and like I don't really care. Like I really don't care. Like people, I don't care.
Right.
If this is good, this is good.
Yeah.
Like if ball's gone, like who cares? Vijay Singh's really good with this. Freddie Couples is really good with this. You know, they got green jackets and they're like this.
Yeah.
However, their movement from here is exceptional. So, kind of the interesting deals. All right, let's do a couple more. That was good. Don't get too good. Jesus. That's hit hard. They had a different hit on the ball there. Dang. Okay. All right, that actually went better than I expected. All right, so let's kind of recap here. So the recap on your thing was when we started out, we looked at your golf swing on video, and realistically, I was super, super happy with where P2, P3 was. Super happy. Your centers were too far right for too long, which makes you stay right for too long inherently, because by P3, if it stays over there and it shortened your system up, you're gonna have a tough time getting back to your left. So then
When you say shorten the system, it's when it just stays like here, like this.
Correct. The whole system moving more that way. Yeah. Now we could say, did you have enough rotation? Did you have enough extension? Did you have enough tilt? Doesn't really matter. You already do those anyway. You were end range, which didn't allow you to have enough rotation, which inherently doesn't allow you to extend enough.
Yeah.
So I don't care about, you know, being phonetically correct on what. It just turn your system more. Then once you did that, over time, you're going to make sure you don't overload your angles in your hands and your wrist. The more that you rotate, the easier that gets anyway, because you don't have the necessity to do it. Then when you've landed your pressure to lead toe, it's going to be now leaving your arms and levers up and then creating separation in your system. As soon as that happens, obviously you see what happens with me when I do that.
Yep.
That happens.
Everything stays up.
Everything stays up,
Your
it loads, the shaft loads, yeah, and you get there, which that was perfect. And that's kind of your deal. So as far as you pushing out of the ground and all that stuff, you do that really well. And that's probably because of your younger years of playing golf. It's pretty much set in there anyway, so you don't need to adopt to do that. So that's your movement. Very good. All right. Now what I'm going to do